controversy. Well, I work in the media now, and you've got someone sitting there next to you who's an embarrassment to the media profession. He's an apologist. He's a charlatan.
Yes, it is Monday. No, it's the Tuesday Club this week. Good evening, everyone. I hope you're well. Apologies about last night. Just purely made for football decisions, Jonathan, that we decided to do the show tonight. Nothing to do with me being out on Sunday or anything like that. I fully reject those allegations. It was strictly all about the football, and what a weekend it was. This league title is now beginning to swing in different directions, Jonathan. It's got us all nervous, excited. I can't quite describe it. I had great fun on Saturday. We did an impromptu fan cam live, which was a success. We got a record ever number of views on a video for post-match pish, 4.1 thousand. So thanks to everyone who's watched that. I think it's about to go to 4.2 actually, which was quality. We are going to talk about, obviously, what happened during that afternoon on the pitch. What pitch, you may ask, because there was a couple of games that were very interesting for us on Saturday. We might look ahead to the small matter of tomorrow tonight as well. Why not? I've heard there's a big game happening there as well, Jonathan Boyce. It's all happening. How the devil are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. It's good to have found my way back out from under the sofa after the Hearts game last week and the blackout we were enduring through last Wednesday. But I'm back. I've got my camera back on. I might be back under the couch tomorrow watching the game through my fingers. But I'm really looking forward to it. I've got to say, I've not been this excited about a derby match in a long, long time. And you know what? We're talking about pendulum swinging. It could very well be tomorrow is the biggest turning point so far in the season.
Well, that's it, Jonathan. That is it. And tomorrow we are going to speak about it length. Obviously, this is kind of like a wee preview show for that. But we will, of course, be talking about the weekend as well. Like I say, might even have a wee mention about the transfer window. Although you've got to be careful on Twitter when you're doing that. Anything that even looks like you might be praising the dark side. Oh, Jonathan, you get a backlash like you wouldn't believe. I'm
You've
just
got to
honest.
be careful. Got to be careful there, what you say.
Scott was wanting the bus last night, but glad it's tonight because he's pushed. Well, the reason it wasn't on last night is because I was pushed on the Sunday, mate. So, yeah, I totally get it. Pishman, Pat. Hungover lives matter. They do. They absolutely do. And Doug Hughes, Jonathan, he's back.
Oh, finally. Finally, I pulled out the big guns for this one. Derby preview, I was going all out. I'm glad we finally got somebody who appreciates a bit of style on the bus tonight.
Frank Bray wants to know if you've done your hair in the back. That quiff is getting bigger though, Jonathan. Right?
It is getting bigger. It's getting bigger. It's getting more dramatic as we get into more dramatic games as the season progresses. By the time we get to the end of the season, it'll be an afro heat we'll have growing here.
I love it, mate. I love it. So the quiff is based on, Jonathan, how your nerves have been shredded so far this season. The more your nerves shred, the higher the quiff gets. I see. I like it, mate. I like the style. Estefona is watching. Estefona boy, sorry, is watching from Estepona. Fantastic, mate. How you doing? Hope you're well. Thanks for getting on the ever-going global Bhoycie bus. We love it. I realised, by the way, I think Saturday's show, it shows you like the wee revenue bit. And trust me, it's pennies, right? That this makes. It's just for a laugh we do this. But the majority of money that YouTube made or whatever from their adverts at the weekend was from Australia, Jonathan, Australian viewers. So I think that basically means, in theory, more folk will watch the show from the weekend from Australia than the UK, which is wild. Scott,
and I think that makes sense. I think that makes sense, Russell, given Andrew's comments today in his press conference. I think some of them might have been directed straight at you, which I know we're going to talk about probably a bit later on.
Yeah, I think Andrew's been on the bus on the fly, and I think we are going to talk about whether Ange Postecoglou was indeed calling out Bhoycie. I think he might have been, Jonathan, and not going to lie, I wasn't even at the media conference, and I absolutely shattered it when I seen it. So you can only imagine how these wee media idiots feel when he calls them mate. Edward Diver says that quiff is electric. Kaylee says you are such a happy wee soul. Isn't that nice? O'Malley's cat is thinking you might be struggling to watch the game. I think you'll just about manage, mate. Chris Kerr says we definitely can't underestimate them tomorrow. Positive note is, if someone said last season we'd be this close to going top, we would have been laughed at. That's true. That's a brilliant point.
It's a brilliant point.
We're going to talk about a few of the aspects, Jonathan, that maybe not just Celtic fans have underestimated what we could achieve this year. Maybe our rivals have as well. Maybe there is a lot of surprise. Studs, Lanigan, Russell and Jonathan, middle-class Tims. Well, you know, I'm 34, mate, and put it this way. I think if you seen my wages, son, you would know exactly what class I am, but why get
middle-aged Tims these days.
Middle-aged Tims. I mean, Studs, you're better than that, mate. Why even get into that sort of nonsense? No need. Right, okay. Loads to get through. Loads to get the Bruce FM's called you, Jedward. I had to bring that up.
I had a feeling that might be coming. We used to quite like a bit of Jedward, though, back in the day.
Oh, that's good. That is good, mate. That is good. Right, okay, so let's get to Saturday, Jonathan. We'll go slightly back before we look ahead. Abada saves the day at the weekend. I was fairly carried away with myself in the show. I was exuding positivity, Jonathan. I was saying this could be our chance. TikTok, I was saying to Wednesday. I was fairly carried away, and I think it was just one of those moments, though, where you go, wow, you can't help but be caught up in it on the back of, obviously, what had happened earlier on in the day as well. Has everyone else calmed down yet? You know, because I still feel, even when I started talking about it there just now, that wave of excitement coming over me again. It was hard to scrape yourself off the ceiling on Saturday, wasn't it?
It really was. I felt like Martin O'Neill running down the touchline, that goal, and it felt like it was never going to come on Saturday. Again, talking about the couch, I was well and truly behind the couch. The quiff was about 10 foot higher than it was tonight, with how much I was on edge at that performance. I didn't think Celtic played terribly. To be fair, on Saturday, I felt they came up against an inspired goalkeeper on the main. I felt we were a far better team. But obviously, once Beaton's moment of sheer stupidity occurs, you are thinking, Christ, this is either going to be a draw or we're going to end up, God forbid, losing this from here and not capitalising, which would have been an absolute disaster. So then to have got the goal in the last minute, I quite like the way it worked out. You know, when the other half of the city dropped points in the last minute and then we picked them up in the last minute. There's a little bit of poetry there. I quite enjoyed the way it all planned out. And in some ways, I actually think that was a better psychological way of getting closer to Rangers than it would have been if we'd won that game 4 or 5-0 and really put a statement out there. So I'm reasonably optimistic for the weekend, for midweek, and I think it was just a relief more than anything when that goal went in from Abada, particularly when it went up front. I think you've got to give plaudits to Ange as well there, because he hooked Giakoumakis. Once Beaton gets sent off, puts Abada through the middle, and I think a lot of people might have been raising their eyebrows because McCarthy, I think, was the man who came on to replace Giakoumakis, and it almost seemed as if he was trying to hold on to what he had rather than actually trying to win it. But he put Abada through the middle, and it paid off dividends in the end. So I think it's just another one that we can tick off, and it's another one that we might look back on come the end of the season as being a huge 3 points.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. It was an interesting game as well. And there was two sides to it, because I went into the game saying, right, they've messed up in Dingwall. We need to go there and absolutely pummel them. That's how I felt at Dundee United. I thought, let's just get a statement, 3-4-0 win like we were earlier in the season. You know, and I know the team's moved on from then and the rock and roll football to an extent. But I was also like, do you know what? Let's spank them. Was though getting the late goal did that almost like turn the screw a wee bit more, Jonathan, even more than a statement 4-0 win could do. I've got a feeling, we always are told here, it's the hope that kills you. They'd have had that wee bit of hope, Jonathan, on Saturday. We all know it. I almost have now begun to think the late goal fucking hurt that wee bit more than what it would be if we just got that statement 4-5-0 win against United. So it was maybe even more sweeter, Jonathan, because of that.
Yeah, no, I'd have to agree with you. I think most people probably expected, Celtic to have went on and won that game fairly comfortably after what happened in Dingwall earlier in the afternoon. And I think the longer that game went on, the more it was looking like we might have dropped points, particularly, as I say, once Beatons gets sent off. You're thinking, Christ, this is going to be one of these days. And it was so important to win against Dundee United after what had happened there. And you're right, I think there had been plenty of fans of another team particularly, tuning in and seeing we'd got to 88, 89 minutes down to 10 men, thinking this isn't going to be Celtic's day. We've actually got away with this draw in Dingwall, only for us to just wheel the carpet right out from under their feet in the last second. And as I say, psychology, I think, always plays a big factor in Scottish football, and particularly when it comes to both Celtic and Rangers. So I think we are riding a massive wave of momentum here. And on top of that, we've got a psychological edge, I think, going into this game after what happened at the weekend.
Yeah, I just think that last minute goal is the type of thing we were doing time and time again under the likes of Martin O'Neill, stuff like that. So, and that, obviously that was a very successful team. So I did see wee bits of that, and I thought, that fucking goal. And I also don't think we were scoring that goal early in the campaign. I look, for an example, not even that far long ago, the Livingston game. We were both sitting there, Jonathan, at the ground going, this is torture. They could play another three hours and they weren't going to get a goal. Now, I think Brown Warrior it was that came in the comments and he was saying, the thing is, that save for Seagrass for Giakoumakis maybe does make it look like it was a more desperate last-minute goal than what we got. And, that save, when I look back at that, is one of the best saves I've seen in Scottish football. I don't even know in how long. He's actually reacted when he's lifted his leg. And, it's not even a split second. It's half a second he's reacted. I don't even know how he's done it. And you think, no, if that goes in, that probably would have went on to become maybe a 2-0 win, But I've got to say, I just think Celtic playing to the end, there was a fantastic, obviously, the quote stuff from the training ground. And I know that is going to get played on repeat if we keep getting late winning goals. But that's when we rest. We rest once the 90 minutes are done, Jonathan. And that means we'll be more of a chance than the other side. So I just think it's brilliant. I just think it's absolutely brilliant. You know, and the late goal is it's a hammer blow to them, but it also gives Celtic a hell of a lot of belief that when you're maybe not at your best and you're up against it, so many fans stayed in the ground, Jonathan, as well. How many times have you seen the ground, you know, looking far starker in terms of numbers than what it did? Do you know what I mean? No, not at all. I think it was, you know, everyone's hanging about because everyone believes everyone's on the same bus, if you like, you know. And it is very interesting to say that Celtic right now are a team that can hang the distance in football matches. Can they hang the distance in the league title race as well? We are going to find that out because, Jonathan, the gap is now down to 2 points. Now, had our namesake scored that penalty at Tynecastle, it all could have been so different. Does it feel as though tomorrow now is the crescendo of a potentially... I just wanted to get the word crescendo into a banner, do you know what I mean? Is the
journalism at its finest with that. Crescendo. He's going to be writing for the Scotsman next week.
That's it, mate. A job in the MSM, that would suit me. But, you know, of a potentially title deciding 7 days. Now, a couple of reasons for that. Liam Boyce scores that penalty. At the very most, we get as a point from the game, I think, to you know, just the way that game was going. Not because of a lack of belief for Celtic, it was just the momentum was Hearts. You know, so if we drop points in that game, you can't then help but think Rangers would have went up to Dingwall. I know this is all ifs, smuts and maybes, but you can't help but think Rangers would have capitalised, went up to Dingwall and got all 3 points as well because they wouldn't have been under as much pressure, yada, yada. The fact, though, these wee things are going in our favour. Liam Boyce misses the penalty. Last minute goal for Ross County. Last minute goal for Celtic. You know, does it now feel as though if Celtic were to win the league title, you know, this season, if they're to win it, we'll look back at the last 7 days, Jonathan, that we've, like, you know, obviously culminating tomorrow and say that was the 7 days that the pendulum fully swung back in our favour. And I know, as I say, it's a hypothetical question, but you just can't help but feel that we look at the green, Jonathan. We're getting it right now. That rub of the green, even. Rub of the green, that's the saying. I'm terrible at those saying things, man.
You're definitely not getting that job in the papers now. But no, back to the original point. Yeah, I think it's going to be an absolute pivotal week that we will look back on if Celtic are to end the season as the FPL champions. I think we have passed every test so far. It's not been pretty at times, but I think that's showing Ange's adapting to his fixtures a lot more than he was earlier in the season and realising the importance is actually just winning games sometimes rather than having to put in spectacular performances. We've seen in the past with seasons previously just how big momentum shifts can be.
Yeah.
We've talked before about, you know, the impact of Gordon Strachan's season in 07-08, where I think we put Rangers twice within about a week and a half of each other. We beat them twice. I think we won about 10, 11 games in the spin going into that final part of that season and end up winning the league, coming back from the death where everyone had written us off. There's another brilliant example of it, which I actually kind of feel is showing a bit of shadows towards.
There's only one team that's came back from the dead, Jonathan. There's only one team that's came back from the dead, mate.
That's it. And the other time this season's kind of beginning to remind me of a little bit is actually the 11-12 season where we were so far behind, and then we managed to get a bit of momentum that season, and it all culminated when we actually played Rangers, and I think it was a midweek game that as well under the lights at Celtic Park, and it was one where Joe Ledley scored and we won 1-0 and we went on to win the league very comfortably that season. But for the first half, hadn't had it our own way at all. So these games are going to be absolutely crucial that we've managed to negotiate. If we manage to make the statement tomorrow and get the 3 points tomorrow, we weren't expecting to be in a position where we could have went top of the league a couple of weeks ago after this fixture was played. We were thinking, keep it tight, keep ourselves in the hunt, win this game. Just keep ourselves there, ask the questions. We've got a chance to really ask some questions by getting 3 points tomorrow night, because for the first time this season, really, Rangers will be the ones chasing, and I just don't know, will they be up to the challenge of chasing when they haven't had to do it for so long?
Yeah, well, that's the big acid test of them right now. And the one thing we can safely say is, the tighter it gets, I think the less likely, the less, I'm trying to word this right. Put it this way: there's been 3 games so far since the split in the league. They've dropped points in 2 of them, with the gap being closer than what it has been in a long time. If they were to carry on in that sort of form, then of course, definitely we've got a strong chance. And I do think it's interesting. I think it's easy to point score and say, oh, they can't handle pressure, yada yada. It's just because they've not been under any for the last 18 months. We can't help but find a wee bit of intrigue in how will they react to being under the cosh. Douglas Hughes comes in, free Douglas Hughes. He says, we go in front, we stay in front. We don't need to think about anything else but winning. Easy. Well, that's it. I mean, 100%. I'd seen someone else in the comments, I think it was Frank, and he was saying, Rangers may well come for the draw. He thinks it's got a draw written all over it because of the tactics they're going to adopt. They're going to come here just happy to take a point because it will keep them top. But that's up to us to overcome that. No 2 ways about it. I just think right now, when we're looking at the league side of things, this could have been, Jonathan, a hell of a lot worse than what it is right now. In fact, we expected it to be a bit worse than what it is right now. We wanted to be hanging in there at this stage. Now, suddenly, we're in a position where it's not only relying on them to make any mistakes, right in front of us comes a match on the back of them dropping points to take on us, for us to leapfrog them into top of the league title race. And I just think that once we can get our noses in front, could we potentially pull away? I don't know. I think there's a strong chance that we could, of course. So again, it's ifs, buts, and maybes, but these are ideas that I wasn't realistically having, Jonathan, at this stage. I felt that as long as we could stay in the mix, you might see them crack a wee bit, come later on in the campaign. The fact they've came back from a winter break with that notorious record they've got after the winter break, albeit last season, but, they were scushing it last year. The other years where it's been relatively close, they've crumbled, and dropping 2 points in 3 games, I'm not saying it's going to carry on like that and like it has in other seasons, but it might. Stills is asking who's retracted his comment. None of us retract comments, mate, on here. The only person who can do it is me. I would tell you if I've retracted a comment, so it must have breached YouTube standards, I'm afraid, my man. I've not got time really to try and retract the comments. I'll just block folk if they're trying to take us to some mad website. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, watch porn here or something. I'm like, right, no, just get you blocked. But that's about it. So yeah, there's been no one retracting comments, so we don't want people to think that we do that on the Bhoycie Buzz, because it's not really my style at all. Bruce is concerned about our ability to keep up the pace for the duration, though. We need to be 2 up at the break to mitigate for a potential backs to the wall period. Now, it's interesting because Celtic's first half display at the weekend was probably, well, in fact, 100% in the league was, in fact, including the Alloa match as well, was the slowest of this year so far. It wasn't as impressive as the other ones. And that has been something that we've seen. In fact, there's a prime example. Rent. See, that's the sort of ones I need to block, Jonathan,
Yeah, we don't need that. We don't need that.
that's the only one. Studs is saying it was a perfectly harmless comment. I honestly, mate, I don't know why it would be blocked. The only one I've blocked was by Ranawa Noshwa. Anyway, you're distracting me with that. I can't even think what I was saying now. Aye, so the first half display wasn't that one that blew us away, Jonathan, this weekend. It generally wasn't. We seen the other side to Celtic. And the thing was, we never had a backs to the wall period that, except Rangers are a better team than Dundee United and could cause us more problems, and therefore it could be more likely we do have one of those sorts of periods against them. But what we have seen from Celtic is, we started this campaign, Jonathan, with some displays, there was hit and miss displays, right? The ones that were working, though, where we were blowing teams away, particularly in the first half, and I mean blowing them away. It's got more and more measured, I think, as the seasons went on, and we've picked our moments a lot more. So that's definitely what's happened with regards to that, from my point of view. But do you still think, when you look at Saturday's display, we need a wee bit more va-va-voom in that first half, like we were getting at Tynecastle and at home to Hibs, even against Alloa. I felt we're going to need that when we're playing our fiercest rivals tomorrow night.
Yeah, and I think it'll go without saying, I think they will get that. I think this will start at an electric pace, this game. There's no two ways about it. The fans are all going to be pumped for it. The passengers on the bus that are going to this game will no doubt be pumped up for it. The players are going to need to rile themselves up for this game at all. I would imagine this will start at a rapid, fast tempo. And I think Celtic, if they can get their noses in front early, can push on and make a big statement tomorrow night. It's more going to be a case of just making sure they ride that wave of momentum, if you like, and those first 15, 20 minutes, Celtic put their marker down, make sure they're actually going to be competitive, make sure they're going to be winning those 50-50s. I know we'll obviously come on to talk about team selection. Team selection will be extremely important for a game like this. And I look at it and I think all the signs are there that Celtic have shown in the last week they know how to grind out results. Against Hearts, they were backs to the wall for the last half an hour. Really, they couldn't get up the pitch at all, but they dug in and they got it out of it in the end. Against Dundee United, they had to show a different side of things. They were never really up against it against Dundee United, as you quite rightly say. But at the same time, when it came to Dundee United, they were huffing and puffing Celtic, and the keeper was producing save after save, and it was looking like it wasn't going to be the day. It would have been very easy for heads to have dropped, as we've seen happen earlier in the season when points have been dropped. We just didn't look like breaking teams down. We kept going. Even when we went down to 10 men, we showed the character that Brendan Rodgers, who was in attendance, would have loved to have seen. And we ended up getting our just rewards. I think against Rangers, I think Rangers will come and try and play for the point. The funniest thing is the way that the league's actually panned out now. Even if we were to draw, it's not actually disastrous as it could have been. If we were still 6 or 7 points, say, behind as we thought. Now that's not saying I want us to draw, not by any stretch of the imagination. I want us to go there and win. But if we were to draw, we're still only 2 points behind. We're still in a very strong position. So I'm not sure whether that will influence Rangers and possibly cause them to have more of a go. I think this could be a very good, attractive game of football to actually watch the neutral as well as everybody else. And I'm actually really looking forward to it. I think it's two pretty evenly matched teams going head to head. And, stakes couldn't be higher.
That's it, Jonathan. The stakes couldn't be higher. And it's all then about who can rise to the challenge. The comments are flying in as well. Red Scotland wants to adopt a keep the ball away from Joe Hart policy tomorrow. I fear we won't. I hope we don't get caught out. I kind of get where he's coming from there. At times, the incessance on the Joe Hart, beginning every single bit of possession can always look a wee bit dodgy. Red also saying he would take a draw right now due to squad depletion. Feed the bear. Douglas was not banned for anything. He was blocked, but I didn't mean to. I hit the wrong button, basically, feed the bear. That was it. And the next day he was back on. But yeah, he was blocked, but technically he wasn't really. Do you know what I mean? See, folk
it was an honest mistake. It was an honest mistake.
Very good. Very good. I mean, well, obviously, every time we're trying to debate, even Saturday, it's distracting us into thinking about tomorrow night. I suppose it's only human nature, Jonathan, isn't it? Now, tomorrow you touched upon selection being so important. Now, there is selection headaches for Ange. He's firmly KO'd Bhoyce's Kyogo theory. Could Calmac return? So Postecoglou, I had a feeling there was a bit of mischief making going on. And do you know what? I get why I do as well, because even the McGregor thing, I mean, he's trained today. Did he look like he could play tomorrow, Ange? Who knows? I'm like, right, so he's not going to give much away. So I can see why, if Callum McGregor starts tomorrow, that would be as much of a, well, not as much of a sort of curveball as Kyogo start, but the same principle there, that he's not really led you to believe there was much of a chance of that, and then he springs it upon you. But he definitely has been on the bus here, Ange, because he absolutely was on no certain terms. I'm not a liar, mate. Kyogo, I told you we'd be out for weeks. So yeah, I think we can definitely say my wee naughty cheeky smile saying that Kyogo might be in the team. Well, doesn't look
I think
like
he's
it
knocked
now.
that one on the head, hasn't he? Well and truly knocked you on the head as well.
I definitely don't want to fall out with Ange again. Uh, when we look at the team selection, then Jonathan, I mean, we've got interesting competition in certain areas, and we've got less competition in other areas. Now, one of the big stories, Jonathan, of the week that's crept up upon us from the weekend onwards, I got a message, and I know quite a lot of people did, it was doing the rounds, was that there was talk of Maeda and Rogic being flown home privately by Celtic. Depending on their involvement with their countries, they might have a chance of playing. Now, I think Maeda played some sort of part today, and I know Rogic, I
20
think, played
minutes,
over an
I believe.
hour. Yeah, 20 odd minutes, and Rogic was 62 minutes. What do you make of that? Is that a wee bit desperate, or will they be on the bench just for an emergency sort of situation? And also on top of that, Jonathan, what sort of impact do you realistically think they can make if they've been flown from the other side of the world literally 24 hours before the fixture kicks off?
Yeah, I mean, it's a tricky one. Really, I don't think Maeda's had as many minutes for his country as Rogic has had. I think Rogic is pretty much ruled out. I think Ange touched upon that in his press conference today that he didn't think Rogic would feature tomorrow just because of how many minutes he's going to have played for Australia. I think Maeda might well be on the bench. That wouldn't surprise me at all. And they've got him there as an impact sub, possibly for the last 20, 25 minutes. It's a lot to ask, though, if you're chasing the game and you're having to go and rely on a player that's just travelled halfway around the world to be there, with everything else that's going on. You've got jet lag, everything else potentially there, and he's getting chucked in at the deep end at Celtic Park, because you would imagine if Andrew's going to use Maeda, it's probably a case of break the glass in case of emergency sort of move to put him in. I think he might need to, though, the reason I say that is I'm not entirely sure how much attacking depth he's going to have in his squad tomorrow. He's going to have one of probably Abada or Forrest, I think, on his bench, because he's no doubt going to put Giakoumakis for me up front. Jota's a certainty to play on the left, so at least Abada and Forrest at back left to play on the right. So one of them two will be benched. But then outside of that, there's not going to be an awful lot of other attacking options there. I don't anticipate he's going to use Ben Doak again in a game of this magnitude. I know you weren't overly impressed with him on Saturday. I know some Celtic fans did seem to think he did okay when he came on. For me, it would be far too early to chuck him in for a game like this. It would give me the fear chucking him in for a game like this, to be completely honest with you.
I agree.
And, I just don't think there's an awful lot of other attacking options either on the wing or up front. If they didn't have Maeda there. So I think, by default, I think Ange will need to put him on the bench, and he'll probably hope he doesn't need to use him. He's probably hoping Celtic are 2 or 3-0 up. If you're asking me, Douglas, what I think the score is going to be for tomorrow, I think Celtic will win. That's my takeaway. I think it'll be close. I don't actually know if there'll be too many goals in this game. I'm still not convinced whether Rangers are going to have a go or not. I think Celtic will win 1 or 2-0 if you're going to put me on the spot. And I expect it'll be another nervy occasion where our fingernails will no doubt be bitten right down to their very foundations, as they always are watching Celtic at the moment. But yeah, I think attacking-wise, Russell, I think Maeda has to be on the bench, unless you think there's good alternative options there. But I can't think of any that you could rely on. Can you think of anyone else Celtic could rely on off the bench?
I think even the fact Celtic have considered this route tells you that Ange isn't satisfied with the options he's going to have for the game. And the fact that Maeda looks like maybe the fittest footballer on planet Earth as well, you might just think, do you know what? He's already superhuman. He'll be able to do that, no bother at all. He does strike you. I mean, this guy took closing down to like another stratosphere, Like, I've never seen a guy close down the ball at 100 mile an hour before. It's mad. His press is completely different. Do you know what you see? He doesn't get, halfway towards a player and tail off, so it looks like it's a token gesture. He's all in every time. I like that about him. Attacking wise, it is a concern because Georgios didn't have his best game at the weekend, Jonathan. And the thing is, there's no agenda on here. You know, we backed Georgios, but it doesn't mean if he does shit, we're not going to say he didn't have a great game. Sets the tone for himself for me at the weekend, Jonathan. And this worries me a wee bit with the big man. Now, is he a confidence player? The 3 finishes that we've seen in a Celtic jersey all reek of confidence when he scored them. But that made it all the more confusing I actually thought in the second half, the one that Seagrass saves that we touched on earlier, I'm not quite sure what else he can do there, and I think he's freaking unlucky, right? But the one in the first half looked like a striker lacking in confidence when he's running through. He's waiting on the ball to come down at a comfortable height. You've got to, Jonathan, you've got to use your thigh, your chest, your stomach, whatever it may be, to get the ball down quicker. You've got to take control. And his awareness of where the Dundee United player was coming in on his blind side, I suppose, to an extent. But I just thought, wow, I would have thought with the confidence he came into that fixture, he'd have gladly just took it down and drilled it. So I wasn't sure on his display. But Giakoumakis has been proving people wrong since the turn of the year, Jonathan. And I think you're right. I think he will get back to play. Definitely. Yeah. I think he will get back to play. And I think it's interesting because the one thing I also liked, and I went to talk about this earlier in the match or at the weekend, was Ange making subs, Jonathan, at half time.
Very refreshing.
That is refreshing for me. It's just, I don't want to hardcore a bit last season, but I had to wait. It was like he was under a rule. He had to wait till 60 minutes before he could make a swap. Whereas, just be if something's not working, don't be too proud. And I don't think Ange is too proud to say, sorry, Scales, it's not worked today. And again, as a player, I've backed on this. But it didn't work. In fact, I thought that left-hand side was as poor as we've looked. But he remedied it. And we know Jota's going to play on the left-hand side tomorrow night, 100%.
Yeah.
And at left-back, Greg Taylor's now, well, I think Liam Scales, any chance he had of playing it, I think are now, he's gifted that to Greg Taylor. But what we're wanting from the team selection, Jonathan, is we're wanting guys to come in at the side. It may not be Celtic at full strength, but I want them to go into a game with the real belief that they can win it. I know there's a lot of comments came in that are saying, well, do you know what? It's only February and we are, or someone else in the squad's depleted, etc. So maybe we would take a point. I don't think that'll be Ange's attitude, and I kind of agree with the manager on it as well. Whatever team he puts out in the park, I think he's going to have the message of not keeping it tight, get out there and try and beat them. Because I think you win this, it's massive. It's massive to win it now. Don't wait till later. Do it now. No. Get your noses in front now. As for other areas of the team, any other areas in the start lineup, Jonathan, you think the position is up for grabs? For me, Abada's going to get the nod above James Forrest. I know you were saying that was one that you were sort of...
I think Abada's certainly the form player out of them. Obviously, if you were looking at it, you would probably look at it and think Forrest has the experience, but he hasn't really done enough, I don't think, since he's came back in. James Forrest to really merit being put in for an immediate start in this game whatsoever. I don't think Ange has any loyalty towards Forrest either, whereas, previously, if you were talking like a Neil Lennon or something like that, Elk was still in charge, then, they might have went for Forrest as an old favourite. So I think Abada will still get the nod in that spot. I think Forrest is still a very handy substitution to have, don't get me wrong. I think a lot of the team will pick itself purely because of the number of players we don't have available in this game. I'll be interested to see what happens in the centre of the park. I know we've touched upon McGregor possibly being there. I think McGregor will be there for it. And Bob making a comment there about McCarthy. I think he might have a point. I'm not entirely sure about McCarthy playing in this game, if I'm being completely honest. I think it's going to be a very fast, high-intensity game of football. McCarthy has yet to really convince me he's up to the pace for that, in my opinion, from what I've seen of him so far. And I think it goes to show a lot that Ange hasn't really put him in very often. And we're now halfway through the season and he's still not trusting him to play there when he's putting guys like Beaton ahead of him, when Beaton is, as we've touched upon before on this, been prone to so many mistakes, which he proved again at the weekend there. So I'll be interested to see what happens in the centre of the park. I think it'll be a massive boost for Celtic if Callum McGregor's in that starting 11, though. I think that would be absolutely huge. Because then you could go McGregor, Hatate, and O'Reilly would probably be my preferred three if you can get McGregor fit. And I don't really know what the position is outside of that. 'Cause if those ones aren't all available, then you're possibly looking at McCarthy having to play. Or is there anyone else you'd be looking at? Would you trust McCarthy in a game like this?
Here's the thing, Jonathan. See, for me, I would have trusted McCarthy ahead of Near Beaton anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not one who's got agendas against players or anything like that. I really don't. Near Beaton, right? Just go and watch what happened before he got sent off. Now, everyone, when we're being typical fans, and I get it, we're Celtic fans and we're going to want to see it from our prism, right? And I get all that. But when you just take a wee step back, yes, Greg Taylor should have got a foul, right? But Near Beaton is giving Greg Taylor that ball with a shitey pass. It was just putting him in a world of trouble. It was needless, and it was Beaton who did that. Near Beaton, the midweek before at Tynecastle, could have been sent off a couple of occasions. We spoke about that. But the weekend he was. I almost think him being removed from the equation for this game might have just done Ange a wee favour, because I don't like. And we're going to be positive and all that. We've been very positive, I think, about the manager and a lot of things Celtic. To me, he's got a slight, maybe a bit of a. In fact, the last 4 Celtic managers have a bit of a blind spot when you're Beaton, or maybe it's me who's got the blind spot to him, and I can't see the value he's bringing. I don't get it. And David Kelly's coming in about the first selection debate we had, and thank you for jumping on the bus, David. Forrest has had about 2 good games against Rangers in over a decade. He hasn't done a thing in 2 years and goes missing in big games. It's a bad all day long for me. It's a no-brainer. And the bad is the one flying in confidence. James Forrest, the accusation that we're seeing a lot right now is he's slowing things down a wee bit. He has taken his time to get back up to speed, Jonathan. I'm still not of the mind of write him off completely and his career's in the downward trajectory and all that. I think it's a wee bit dramatic. But for me right now, it does show you that he's not even impressed that much since he's came back. The fact that it is, as David calls it, a no-brainer. Leo Labada starts. And I think you're right. The rest of the team does pick itself to an extent, other than this middle of the park conundrum we've got. Does McGregor play? And is it a risk? Does he wear a mask? That's been spoke about. Will that impact him? Players are only human beings, Jonathan, right? There is a psychological aspect to football when you're carrying an injury. Now, we've seen the state of Callum McGregor's face, Jonathan. We all did. When he's out clapping the supporters, and it's out to there. Mm-hmm. I mean, I know how honest the professional is. I know how Celtic daft he is. But does there come that wee bit you kind of pulled out of a header? You're just like, on that, to me, firstly, it's not an accusation I'm putting at Callum McGregor here. If you were to be like that, I just think it's a subconscious thing that can happen with such an injury. But also that, to me, it's the one game this season. We can't afford any of that. We've got to have, everyone's got to be winning their 50-50 balls, their headers. It's got to be that way. Would it maybe make more sense to bring on to start a McCarthy, or would it make more sense to start a McGregor? I think McGregor, for a lot of reasons, does make more sense. Obviously, if it was just a straight shootout and they were both fit, it's not even a conversation. I get that. But in the current circumstances, I suppose the key question is as well, though, how fit is James McCarthy? I think he would be throwing himself into tackles, yeah, but hello, can you hear me?
Hello, I'm back. Yeah.
It was both of us, mate, that went, so I've no idea what happened there. We do seem to be back now. And it is the internet, mate. 100% is. Red Scotland says start the strongest 11. I do get that. But I think the debate in midfield is I would certainly be seeing how it goes for Callum McGregor early on. We all know he's going to be as committed as anyone you could ever want to see in that. But if you do get the hint that come these, if he's trying to win 50-50s or headers or whatever, and he's just slightly a wee bit more timid than what you would expect, monitor it, because I think it's a game that we can't have anyone that can't be full-blooded into this. It's a full-blooded fixture, Jonathan. It is a slobber knocker. It's a title, it's a huge title match between the two teams that can realistically win the title in Scotland this year. If one side wins, they leapfrog them for the first time in 18, 19 months. So it's not a game for any half measures, shall we say.
No, it's definitely not. Yeah, as I say, you've got to look at that, and obviously Ange will know best, as will McGregor, hopefully, as to whether or not he's in a good enough place to be playing. I think McGregor's the type who would play with a broken leg if he could, to be honest. He doesn't seem to miss an awful lot of games whatsoever, Callum McGregor. It's always a bit surprising that you don't see him in the squad, and you realise how much you miss him when he's not there. You can tell Ange is already completely taken to him, and he's one of his favourite players to call upon. So I think he will take the risk on McGregor. I think that's shown that he's probably going to take the risk on McGregor by the fact he had him in training today. I would imagine he will need to wear a mask because there's no way that swelling's going to have gone all the way down as of yet. For me, I think McGregor's the type of player that will still be committed to everything. He just strikes me as somebody who's pretty fearless. McGregor, similar to Scott Brown, the previous captain before him. So, I think I wouldn't have any qualms as long as Callum McGregor's feeling ready and up for it to throw him in, particularly given the sort of circumstances we're in. Callum McGregor will be desperate as well, because bear in mind, it's not a nice statistic, but Celtic haven't beaten Rangers since about September, October 2019 at Ibrox. In that game where bloody Johnny Hayes scored all those years ago. I think it was the last time Celtic won maybe they played the cup final after that in November when they won by the skin of their teeth. But it's been a while since Celtic have last beaten Rangers, and the players that have been around for that length of time, like Callum McGregor, will be desperate to put that record straight and prove a point. Because I think that is, the longer that goes on, the more that becomes a bit of a monkey on the team's back, and the more that's going to be a stick that will get poked at them, that they can't get the job done against Rangers. And I think that's why, as well as not only the chance to go top of the league, I think it's very important from a psychological point of view we get that monkey off our back and prove, yes, we are still able to beat this lot, and yes, we are going top of the league, and you know what, we're not going anywhere if we get there.
Well, absolutely, I agree with that, and I like there's a wee bit of dig in what you were saying there, Jonathan. I like that, mate. And that is the wee bit of dig that the Celtic team will need to show tomorrow, because it is going to be, it's one of those games. You've got to be up for it, mate. Got to be up for it.
It's box office.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, obviously, we've kind of, we've looked at this one. I think with the selection headaches and all that was kind of covered by that point there that I was saying. If in terms of the transfer window, Jonathan, obviously that was the other aspect of this week, and we'll go at the open forum for the final 10 minutes as well in a wee second or two. But Celtic were obviously quieter, the quieter of the two in the final day, Jonathan. Few outgoings. Adam Montgomery to Aberdeen made a hell of a lot of sense. From my own personal point of view, I can't see the Osazi Urhoghide deal benefiting us going to Ostend. I still can't work out deals like that. For me, get him out to somewhere where he's going to be under our nose on loan. Getting used to the league that he's going to be trying to play in for Celtic. I don't send him out to Belgium. For me, I mean, they must have their reasons for it. It didn't make much sense. To me, it's like Liam Shaw, for example, starting tonight, and he's starting apparently attacking mid in behind the striker for Motherwell. I'm intrigued to find out how that is. See if Urhoghide's playing centre midfield for Ostend next week, Jonathan. I won't know about it. You don't know anything about it. You won't see any reports of it. And I mean, not that my opinion particularly matters, but I just think it's so much better to have them under your nose, playing in the environment that you want them to strive for at Celtic. In terms of incomings, how do you expect Celtic to be more active and maybe one more wee wild card signing made? Or would Celtic made their mind up and we're just content with what we'd achieved already in the window?
I think it was a fairly good window. I don't really have too many complaints with the business Celtic have done in this January window whatsoever. I think we did our business early, which was very refreshing for Celtic because it is normally us that's hunting around looking for loan deals on the last day of the transfer window historically. So I was quite happy we got most of our deals done before that happened. I think the only one that was perhaps you were hoping for was maybe getting a Jota or Carter Vickers signed up permanently. I think that might well have happened, but I think they were hoping to get rid of some of the dead wood,
Yeah.
like your Barkas or, an Ayeti or somebody like that, get them off the wage bill, try and get some money back to recoup there, and then you can then re-spend that on either your Carter Vickers or your Jota and try and get one of them over the line permanently. I don't really feel there was any real need for Celtic to sign anyone. We know the headlines have obviously went across the city with the business they've done on the final day. But even touching upon that, I think that's a great opportunity for Celtic players as well to try and get the better of a player that has undoubtedly got a very strong reputation, has done very well for himself in his footballing career, Aaron Ramsey. And if I was a Celtic player, I'd be thriving at the thought of trying to one up him over the next few months. And from our point of view, though, I feel it was job done earlier in the window. I didn't really have any complaints whatsoever that we didn't do any business on the last day.
Yeah, well, I think, Jonathan, the thing is, Celtic's manager, Ange Postecoglou, was extremely relaxed 2 weeks before the window opened that the business would be done early in the window. And it wouldn't be, as he quoted, the same as the previous window. Obviously, we sprung a wee surprise by getting Matt O'Reilly. I think he was the Bhoycie bonus signing, wasn't he? I think that was one that potentially could have been the other Riley McGree. But instead, it's Matt O'Reilly. He's looked a player so far. I think we've all been quite excited by what we've seen of him so far. I think he was the sort of cherry on top. I think what Ange really wanted, and he alluded to, was he'd actually wanted Maeda in the summer. But it's notoriously difficult to get folk for the J League, so he settled with Kyogo. I think he wanted Kyogo and Maeda. To think we've not even seen them together yet, So I mean, it's all great saying, I think just as football fans, you get to deadline day and you just can't help but just keep checking it, keep refreshing the page, and think, it's just I think it's just a football fan thing that you want us to do. But realistically, if you look at it from a footballing perspective, Jonathan, you just take a step back. It's so much better the way Celtic have done it than what it would have been if we were trying to get guys in the door at the last minute. Even one new player at the last minute. What's the point? How have you not identified them before that?
It very rarely works as well, doesn't it, Russell? I can't really think of too many last day signings done in January that have actually ended up paying up in terms of winning us things. Because even when we've done big loans, in the past, two come to mind. You've got Craig Bellamy that was done a number of years ago, and they had Robbie Keane that was done a number of years ago. But in both of those seasons, neither of them actually ended up being in a title-winning team. So I always think you're better as a collective getting the full.
I think you're right there. Who did you say?
Craig Bellamy and Robbie Keane.
Oh, so I thought you said Roy Keane. Sorry.
Oh no, Roy Keane was signed permanently. He wasn't on a loan. Roy Keane was signed permanently.
Oh yeah, because it was only 6 months out his 18 deal that he did, though, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right. He ended up having to retire early, but yeah, Robbie Keane and Craig Bellamy were big impact signings and did a very good job. But both of them finished that season without a league winners' medal. So I always kind of feel you're as well working on your collective, which I think is another actual excellent point as well. If we were to win tomorrow, is that Celtic will only get stronger as the second half of the season goes on, because Celtic have yet to have a full squad to pick from all season. And I think that is where Celtic have an edge in this title race. I think Celtic actually have a better squad. There's more depth to Celtic squad if they can get them all fit and available than across the city. And I think that could end up being absolutely pivotal in the second half of the season, when we actually have the ability to really mix it up, and teams don't know who's going to be playing for Celtic because there's so many options, so many weapons at our disposal, and it does keep opposition managers guessing. So for me, if we were to win tomorrow night and have that squad depth all coming back, getting your Kyogos back, getting your Rogic back from international duty, etc., then Celtic will push on, in my opinion, and go from strength to strength in the second half of the season.
Well, this is the thing. right now we got in players that were in the mould of Postecoglou. Postecoglou identified him. He keeps telling us it's not just a player I sign, it's the person. So we know that the 4 guys we've got are not just the right players for Celtic that are going to suit the manager's style, but we know they're the right type of people, Jonathan, that are going to work, are going to, enjoy Angie's methods. Do you know what I mean? And are going to bring positive vibes to the club. And they're all on long-term deals other than Maeda's alone with an option to buy. We all expect that fully to be. I don't really understand what's happened there with that one, but whatever that's all about, whether Celtic are keeping money for this, I don't even want to speculate. So generally, don't know.
Probably accounting, probably something to do with that. Celtic keeping the accounts looking fresh for the new accounts year or something silly.
It may well be. It may well be. But the mouth-watering thing is, Jonathan, we've not even seen Celtic at full strength anywhere near it since the new signings were made, and that was a month ago. Now, there's 2 sides to that. We know we need a deep squad because of the amount of injuries we've picked up in the first half of the season. We know it. It's been a season like no other for injuries. It's a fact. But also, you can't help with the romantic side, you think. But let's just say, at some point in the second half of this season, it is likely Andrew's going to have all his weapons at his disposal. It's a pity it's not tomorrow. But what he does have, once he gets them all together as well, is a lot of them have settled in to Scottish culture, whatever you want to call it. Because when they joined, there just so happened to be a winter break then, Jonathan. So not just focusing on matches and it all being a wee bit of a whirlwind, they actually had a couple of weeks to bed in, go to training, get used to it all before they played their first match, which is ideal. And the squad right now, I think if Ange's happy with the job done, then we all should be. As I say, you can't help but just be a football fan sometimes. Do you know what I mean? And look at freaking deadline day and go, have we linked to anyone? Anyone? You just, I think that's just being a football fan. You know what I mean? But over the whole, I'm very content with what Celtic's done. And I know the Aaron Ramsey deal was the headline grabber. I mean, I think a lot of people are clutching at straws that, he was only signed because it's a reactionary signing to a couple of crap results for them or whatever. And I'm like, well, I dare say a deal like that to get it structured so favourably in their terms as well probably has been in the pipeline longer than just on the back of a Ross County, draw. And I can't help but think if we'd signed Aaron Ramsey, there'd be a lot of us going, it's pretty risk-free. I think it was David Kelly saying about the loan fee. That's not actually been disclosed. Again, what has been disclosed, though, was the fact that all his wages are being paid. Now, again, I think you're right, Jonathan. If you're sitting there, any Celtic player, you want to be playing against guys like that. That's why players leave Celtic all the time. This is all we hear. They leave to test themselves against the best in England or whatever it may be. And you're going, well, if players like this are coming to Scotland, that's good for us to, that keeps our players motivated. If this is the challenges they're looking for, fantastic. And I think it's something to be excited about. I know there's going to be a lot of pettiness about it, but I'm not really going to go into it. I just think on his day, fantastic player. We all know that. Is it anything that should be keeping us up at night? I don't think so either. But do I think it improves them if they can get him fit and playing? Aye, I do. I don't know why it needs to be a crime that you say that,
I'll put it this way, I'd rather they had signed him than did, put it that way. But
if you say that, you're crazy.
Aye, but as I say, it's one of those ones, I think when we're looking at the collective between the two squads, I feel Celtic have done the business in terms of building a full collective there in this window and obviously made a few more signings that are actually going to enhance their squad depth. Rangers have obviously got a big name in Aaron Ramsey. I think if he does stay fit, then he will be a very good bit of business for them. I don't think that's something we should really be disputing too much. He's a great player, Aaron Ramsey. But at the same time, it's a great opportunity for our players to get one over him when he does eventually play. He won't be playing tomorrow. I think they've said it's going to be a few weeks before he's fit. But when the next derby rolls around, what an opportunity that is for whoever's playing in midfield against him to make a statement. And there'll be a lot more interest in the next Celtic Rangers game when he's playing as well for these players to do just that.
Aye, totally, mate. It's something you've got to embrace. That's it.
Yep.
The better version there is of them against us, the more we rise to it, the more sweeter it is when you beat them. That's it. Now, it is the Monday Club, Jonathan. It is always an open forum. I know the comments have been lively again tonight. There's been loads coming in. A huge thank you. There's 116 watching live right now. Not bad for a Tuesday night, you know. The Bhoycie bus is flying. Everyone, get your thoughts in. If you've got anything you're wanting to be discussed that hasn't already, we're always up for it at the Monday Club, Jonathan. It's your chance to ask us something that maybe's not been asked already yet. I know I try and read out as many of the comments throughout the show I can, but if you can think of anything that hasn't really been covered, I am more than happy to do that. Obviously, whilst I wait on those coming in, fanboyfootball.com, a massive thank you to them continuing to sponsor us. Check them out. Top left, bespoke prints, bespoke t-shirts. There's even going to be a Bhoycie bus section, Jonathan, coming soon. And we are looking forward to sort of seeing how many people want those t-shirts. That was all suggested in the comments. We also have to ask, can you hit the subscribe button? Can you hit the like button for us? It'd be appreciated. It's not the end of the world if you don't, but go for it if you can. Joseph Agnew says, thanks, Brill, as always. Well, thank you, mate. Not a problem at all. First 11 and predictions. So, Jonathan, what's the scoreline prediction you've given?
I think Celtic will win it. I'm going to say it's going to be tight. It's going to be fraught. I'm going to say Celtic will win it 1-0.
You're annoying because that would have been my prediction, but we need to try and be boring. Realistic, that would be my honest prediction for it. I think it could be a 1-0 win. I think it's going to be tense at times, Jonathan. I think that, well, obviously, but I think there's going to be moments where we might not look like we'll get there, and again, it's just going to be that big sigh of relief in unison when the final whistle goes. Hopefully, though, it's more comfortable than that. I'm not wanting it to be 1-0, but if I was to pick a result, it would be 1-0.
1-0, Giakoumakis in the last minute. That's what we're saying, myself.
Giakoumakis.
We're still backing this, man.
I hear you, Jonathan. Yeah. Someone's asking me if this is a Cameroon training jersey. No, it's just a plain jersey, mate. Just a plain Adidas top. A lot of comments coming in. 3-1. Red Baron thinks 3-1 Rangers. I don't see that. I can't see them scoring 3 goals at Celtic Park, to be honest with you. Steve McDonald thinks Starfelt's going to get a goal. The gallant pioneer comes in. He would have took a draw for Rangers when they had a 6-point gap, but it's must win now. Bruce doesn't want you to say 1-0. His nerves can't handle it. It is.
It's going to be nervy, Bruce. It's going to be nervy, I'm afraid. I don't think either team's going to be running away with this one. It's the closest to call derby I've seen in a long, long time, mate. I think we will be watching this one for parts of this game from behind the sofa, potentially. But it's all good fun. It's exactly why we want to watch these sorts of games.
Absolutely. And Jonathan, you know what? We're due a win against them as well. You know, they're due.
We are due one.
So let's just see what happens. But we will be back for post-match pish tomorrow night. I know you won't be, but I will be on.
I'll be getting pished in the pub, win, lose or draw.
Love it, mate. Love it, mate. That's me back off it for another month or two. Anyway, I cannot be bothered with any of that. But I am looking forward to seeing you all. I will be on for post-match pish. I'm not doing a fan cam for the game. I just, fuck that. It just doesn't make sense, you know, because if it goes Pete Tong, that'll put me off doing it in the future for any match. So I'm quite enjoying doing them now. So we'll do them for the other games, but I don't see the point in doing it tomorrow. But post-match pish, yeah, I know a lot of people will be pissed coming on. Why not? But we will be live from 10, something like that. Why not? 10 till 11. That sounds good. Yeah, we'll do 10 to 11 post-match pish. We will see you all then. Jonathan, a big thanks to you as well for jumping on the Monday, Tuesday club, whatever club it is, who cares? And we'll see you all later. Thanks again.
The seagulls follow trawler. It's because they think sardines will be thrown into the sea. Thank you very much.
Talking nonsense. So I thought, no, enough's enough. Why should I put up with that?
Talking nonsense. So I tell them, why should I put up with that?
Don't back down, double down.